Hello everyone, I'm Maria and welcome back to my nook. In today's video, I want to talk about all the books that I have read in November and December specifically. Now, I still am planning on uploading a kind of yearly wrap-up video for the entire year of 2023 with some reading stats as well, but that one will be uploaded in the future. In this video, it's just me talking about the books I've read in the last 2 months of this year. And without any further ado, let's get into it. So the first book I finished in November was The Battle of Hackham Heath by John Flanagan, and to be honest, it feels like I read this book forever ago. This is the second book in the Early Years series by John Flanagan, which is basically a not prologue, but kind of prologue. What would you call this? It's a duology that takes place before the events of the main Ranger's Apprentice series, because there are certain events that are often referenced in the main Ranger's Apprentice series because they were very important historical events. And this duology actually shows us those events. What exactly happened? It shows us the entire story because obviously, since a lot of time has passed between these events and the start of the main Ranger's Apprentice series, some of the accounts have become a bit foggy or not as detailed anymore, you know, but this duology has all the details. And this is the second book, so obviously I can't talk much about the plot, but this is kind of where everything started, almost. Not everything, but I think you're getting my point. Some of it was a bit predictable, obviously, because we know where certain characters will be at in years in the future. I know I could have read this duology first, before reading the main Ranger's Apprentice series, and then maybe some things wouldn't have been so foreseeable. But first of all, I followed the reading order of a Ranger's Apprentice readathon hosted by Cassandra Lynn and her friend. So it was kind of given to me. And B, I think it's more commonly recommended that you read the main Ranger's Apprentice series first and then dive into this duology at some point, which is also why I did that. Anyway, this book kind of reminded me, not just kind of, but it really truly reminded me of the fact that I do not enjoy reading fictional books about war actions. Everything that comes with war strategy and especially war battles, I just do not enjoy reading about that. In general, I obviously enjoyed reading about the characters I already loved and seeing some characters start, like where it all started for them, you know? But just all of this war battle type of stuff, not my thing at all. And technically I already knew that, but I didn't really know it would be such a big thing in this book, which I should have known, honestly. And maybe I thought I might feel different about it now, but I don't. So this book was more of a 3.5 star read for me. Next up, I read Fangs by Sarah Andersen. I borrowed this from my library, so I don't have a physical copy to hold up for you. As far as I understood, this graphic novel is just a compiled version of Sarah Andersen's comics about, I do not remember her name, but there is basically a main character. She is a vampire and she meets a guy who is a werewolf, and they fall in love and have a relationship, a romantic relationship. And I think Sarah Andersen just published like comic panels here and there, and at some point they were all compiled into this graphic novel. The thing is, I saw this one in a vlog or multiple videos of a booktuber, and she was really raving about this graphic novel, and I thought, I'ma just check it out. It sounds kind of fun, you know? But in the end, I was disappointed because there wasn't really any plot. And I mean, in a lot of graphic novels, there's not really too much plot because you can't really tell too much within such a short time that a graphic novel gives you as an author. But this one really it was just comic panels that other authors post on social media every day compiled. You know what I mean? So it was really just random situations from the life of this vampire and this werewolf, and some of them were a bit funny and everything, but overall it just wasn't really for me. Because these situations were so random, we never really spent more than like, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes in the same situation with these characters, and I feel like that's what bothered me most. Like, it was tiny snippets from their life, but they were so tiny, it was basically like half a minute and then it was gone. And I think that's mostly what bothered me. It didn't really speak to me, and I wasn't really moved by it. I wasn't really touched by it or anything. And most of the things I think should have been funny, I didn't think they were funny. I also didn't really care for their romance. It just wasn't really the type of romance I like to read about in books. I didn't really like it much, but if you're into a vampire and a werewolf having a romantic relationship in a graphic novel, you should totally check it out. So just because it wasn't for me doesn't mean it's not good. It might be for you. After that, however, I read the 4th volume of Spy Family by Tatsuya Endo, and now this one was so good. I enjoyed it so much. I just love the Forger family so incredibly much, and something I really enjoyed in this volume in particular was the kind of contrast between Anya's childlike view of things and then Twilight's incredibly dry and rational view on things, which like I feel him on that, honestly, but like the contrast between those two views of the world and of events I really enjoyed, especially in this volume. Obviously, it was really funny once again. It was also really funny how dramatic things got at some points. I just love the series a lot. For the people who don't know what the series is about, we basically have Twilight. His codename is Twilight. He is an agent from an agency. And he is basically the best of the best, or one of the best of the best agents that this agency has to offer. And now he received a mission to get close to a politician of a certain party in a country. And in order to do that, he needs to create a fake family. So he needs to find a fake wife and a fake child, and he needs to enroll his fake child in a very prestigious academy because this politician's son or sons, I'm not quite sure, but at least one of them is also enrolled in this academy, and Twilight is hoping to get to this politician via their children. So if their children befriend each other, that type of situation, because this politician is very secluded, very private, you know, and his son is pretty much the only way to get close to him. So Twilight finds a girl in an orphanage and adopts her, but he does not know that she is a telepath. So she can read minds, and she knows that he is a spy on a mission, but he doesn't know that she knows. And then he goes on and finds a fake wife who is secretly an assassin as her second job, basically. And she keeps that secret from both Twilight, who goes by the name Lloyd Forger, and the girl, Anya. And Anya, since she's a telepath, also knows that her fake mom, or her adoptive mom, is secretly an assassin. And she also knows that neither of her adoptive parents know of each other's secret. And they both don't know that she's a telepath. That's kind of the deal about this manga series. And I'm really enjoying it so far. The last book I finished in November, but not the last book I'm going to talk about in this video, was Godkiller by Hannah Kana. Now, this is a rather short fantasy novel. So this book is basically about this world in which there's a whole lot of gods. Like, there's almost a god for everything. But the current king has prohibited gods, pretty much, and it is a law that it is forbidden to pray to gods or seek them out or to do anything with gods, basically, that is not killing them. And then there are god killers who kill gods for a living, because they pretty much work for the king by the law. And our main character, Kissen, is one of those god killers. She's taken up the job because of an event that has happened in her past. I'm not sure if I should be talking about it, but it's being shown in the book very quickly. Then we've got Inara, who is somehow bound to this small god, Skitty Seth. His soul is somehow bound to Inara, and neither of them know how or why or how they can untangle each other again, so they have a little problem there, right? Then we've got Elogast. He is a former knight and receives a mission to go somewhere in this book for a very important reason at some point. And during the course of this book, all four of them meet up and they team up to kind of go about each of their missions. I think that's basically what this book is about. I sometimes am so incredibly bad at doing synopsis for books. I'm so sorry. But to be honest, I loved the world building and the magic system, I think you could call it, of this book. It felt so incredibly unique, and sometimes descriptions of places were so incredibly beautiful and just fantastical. It was amazing, honestly. The writing took me a bit to get used to. It was also quite info dumpy at first because we were thrown into one POV and then another and then another and yet another, and I was like, whoa, can we just get used to one character for now, please? But it all settled down at some point and it was all fine. The writing, like some of the descriptions were quite gruesome, so I do recommend you check the trigger warnings for this book. Like, honestly, check the trigger warnings for this book, please. But at other points, the writing was so beautiful and poetic almost. I also enjoyed our characters and the story, and I was quite intrigued to see where they would go. The ending had me full of emotions, and not just the good kind, but like the fact that the ending produced so many emotions inside of me, I think was a good sign for the book, right? I can totally see how there was some character depth missing here and there, but I think it was also because of the length of the book. As I already said, it was a rather short fantasy novel. and there was just some character depth missing here and there. There was also a romance plot that I kind of liked, but it also came out of nowhere. Almost like there were tiny hints thrown in here and there, tiny sprinkles, and then suddenly bam, it was all there. And that was a very quick change, which could have been done better in my opinion, but I think it was fine. I did enjoy the book, and I am definitely looking forward to the sequel, which comes out in February. So I am giving this book 3.75 stars. By the way, this counts for this video in general. I have read a couple of these books in reading vlogs, and I will link those down below so you can check those out if you want a more in-depth view on these books or what my reading experience was like. And now let's move on to the books that I have read in December. Alright, let's talk about the books I read in December. The first one I read was The Outcasts by John Flanagan. This is the first book in the Brother Band series, or the Brother Band Chronicles. This is a companion series to the Ranger's Apprentice series, and again I read this one too for the Ranger's Apprentice readathon hosted by Cassandra Lynn and her friend. Now in this book we meet Hal, who is a Scandian, and in Scandia, which is a country that exists somewhere in that world. Anyway, in Scandia, it is a custom or tradition that boys who are 16 or turn 16 in a specific year become a class, and they train to become warriors. They get trained in combat, they get trained in how to navigate a ship, how to navigate by the stars or the sun, and all those kinds of things. And this book I enjoyed for the most part. Like, I enjoyed the group of characters, Hal and his friends that we got to follow, and I definitely enjoyed the humor. The humor was really good in this book, not going to lie. But on the other hand, I would have liked for some more character depth, especially for the friends around Hal, because they were important characters in this book, and they took up a lot of space in the story, a lot of time, and they were important for the plot. They played big parts a lot of times, and yet most of them received like one character trait at the beginning of the book, and that stayed their singular character trait, which they were constantly described by, and that was it. One of them was once described as a thief and a pickpocket, and everything he ever did was described to be because he was a thief and a pickpocket. And then there were those twins that were constantly fighting over everything. That's all they ever did. One of the characters was short-sighted, and there were so many comments all the time about him only being short-sighted, not stupid. And I'm like, okay, I get it, but show it to me. Why won't you show it to me by giving the characters a little more depth, you know? I did enjoy some parts. There was especially one certain training session that they went through that I really enjoyed. I was on the edge of my seat. But other than that, I didn't really enjoy plenty of the training because it felt a lot like battle school. And I already mentioned this about the Battle of Hackham Heath. I don't really enjoy reading fiction books that tell me anything or show me anything that is about war or battles or anything like that. Like, I just don't enjoy reading about teenage boys being trained to become warriors. I don't know, like I enjoyed the part where they had to become a team and help each other and try to see what each of them are best at and try to combine all those abilities to make the best possible team and choose the best possible teammate for each of the tasks and stuff like that. I really enjoyed that, the camaraderie of it all, the friendships that developed through it and stuff like that. But like the whole battle school vibe of it, not my thing. There was also an event at the end, which I guess is really important because it probably set this entire series off, that just does not make sense in my head, and it still makes me angry because somebody is being blamed for something that I think should not be blamed for that. And I think that's incredibly unfair and stupid of the people who blame that somebody. And it just frustrates me so badly. But I'll see where the second book will go, and I hope we'll get some more character depth in that book. There was also some sort of romance in this book, because there was a girl that appeared like once for like 2 pages and then did not appear again for 200 pages, and then all of a sudden she was kissing the main character and I was like, wow, okay. But then she was gone again after 5 sentences. So I don't know what that was about. Maybe John Flanagan thought he just had to throw a romance in there. I don't know. But I think I'll still continue this series for now, just to see where it'll go and if I'll maybe enjoy books further into the series more. This book did get some emotions out of me, like 20 pages in and I was bawling my eyes out. It wasn't that bad, but it did get some emotions out of me. And it ended on a cliffhanger, so I definitely want to see where this series goes. Also, I can totally see how you could critique John Flanagan's writing, but I just enjoy the books and his writing in the way that it makes it easy for me to kind of turn my brain off and really relax and just fall into these books, and I don't have to think too much. And I enjoy that from time to time, you know? So overall, I am giving this book 3.5 stars. Next up, I read A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. This is the 3rd book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, and I did not really enjoy the 1st and 2nd book in that series. I read Once Upon a Broken Heart first. It was my first ever book I read by Stephanie Garber. Didn't really enjoy the plot or the main character, but I really loved the world and the magic system and Stephanie Garber's writing style, so I picked up the Caraval trilogy, loved that one so much. So then I picked up the 2nd book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series when it came out, because I thought maybe I'm going to enjoy it more now that I've read the Caraval trilogy, which happens before the events of Once Upon a Broken Heart. And I think it's beneficial to read the Caraval trilogy first, but you don't have to. You'll be fine if you don't. I just think it's beneficial, you know, but you'll be fine without it. So then I read the 2nd book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, which is called The Ballad of Never After. Didn't really enjoy that one either, but I enjoyed it more than the first one. And a year later, the 3rd book in the trilogy comes out, and I'm like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna give this another shot because it's been a full year. Maybe my taste has changed. Maybe this 3rd book is going to sweep me off my feet. Who knows? And guess what? I was actually positively surprised by the 3rd book, probably because the bar I had set for it was like down here. You know, for the 2nd book, I still had my hopes up because I was still hoping to fall in love with the series that everybody loves. But for the 3rd book, I was like, you know what? I'm probably not gonna like it. It might just be a waste of my time. And then when it was actually better than okay, I was like, wow, this is cool, this is nice, this is good. So I was positively surprised by that book. Obviously can't tell you what it's about because it's the third and final book in a trilogy, but I enjoyed it. I had a good time, probably mostly because I didn't expect much of it. I didn't care too much what's going to happen in that book because I wasn't too invested, and I can totally see how people who are very invested in the series and the books would be disappointed by the third book, but I just wasn't, so I was positively surprised. Therefore, I think I would give A Curse for True Love 3.75 stars. Now after that, I read the 5th volume of Spy Family by Tatsuya Endo. I already mentioned in this video what that manga series is about, so I'm not going to do it again. This volume was the first one that kind of disappointed me, but to be fair, one of the volumes has to be my least favorite, right? It was just more of random situations that didn't feel very important for the plot, at least not yet. Maybe they will at some point. Like, I can see how they take the plot further in small ways, but they didn't feel like it, you know what I mean? So it just wasn't as fun as the first 4 volumes, but I still enjoyed it. I'm not going to rate it, however, because I decided I'm not going to rate graphic novels, manga, comics, etc. unless I really want to give them a specific rating. And now after that, I read Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. This is the second and final book in the Shepherd King duology. I read the first book, One Dark Window, in October and already really enjoyed that book because I thought the world was really unique, even though the world building was lacking a bit here and there, but I still liked the world building. I enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the vibes and the atmosphere of the world and the writing, and I thought the magic system is really unique in this world. I enjoyed the characters a lot, and that was a huge cliffhanger at the end, so I was so looking forward to the second book, which had just come out when I was reading the first book. And now I was finally able to read it, and my god, I enjoyed this book so much. When I started reading this book, it had been 1.5 months or maybe 2-ish already since I had finished the first book, and only once I started reading this one, I truly realized how much I missed being in this world and how much I had missed these characters. I enjoyed this book so much, honestly, being back in this world and with these characters. I just had such a good reading experience with this book. I had such a good time with it. I really enjoyed the plot and the different POVs we got and the character depth we got for one of the characters that I was kind of missing in the first book. But in the first book I thought it was fine because they were just more of a side character. But in this book we got so much character depth, and I sucked it all up because I loved it so much, and I just enjoyed it all so incredibly much. It got so many emotions out of me, and I tabbed so many things in this book. I even set up a tab key with different colors for different things, which I normally don't do for casual reads unless it's a highly anticipated book release of mine. But at some point I was like, damn, I'm tabbing so many things. If I don't set up a tab key, I'm not going to be able to go back to any of this and, you know, flip through the things I tabbed. And that's on how much I enjoyed this book. Honestly, I am so sad that this is over now and that I had to say goodbye to this world and these characters now. The ending of this made me so emotional, I'm telling you. It hasn't been that long since I finished this book, and I am still kind of sad that I am just done with this book now. I'm done with this world, and it's probably one of my favorite series of 2023, actually. I didn't think this would happen back when I read One Dark Window, but Two Twisted Crowns really cemented this duology as one of my favorite series of 2023 in my head. I can't stop saying it, but I just enjoyed this book so much. And now I am going to stop saying it because I have one more book to talk about. Oh wait, no. But first, obviously I have to tell you what my star rating for this book is. I think I'm going to give it a 4.5 stars or maybe 4.75 stars. I've yet to decide between those two. I think it's not going to be a 5-star just because it didn't feel like a 5-star. I don't know, even though I really enjoyed this book, I don't feel it in my heart that it's a 5-star read. I can't really explain this, but sometimes you just have to know that a book is a 5-star read, and with this one it doesn't feel like it. So I think 4.5 or 4.75. And now the very last book I have finished in 2023. It is a graphic novel called Gillig and the Vampire by Bree Paulsen. This is basically about this world in which there is a witch who has made some vegetables and fruits sentient with her magic, and they are now these tiny fruit and vegetable people. Like, there's a person called Garlic because she is garlic, and there's a person called Carrot because they are a carrot, and there's a person called Celery because he is the celery. And they basically work for this witch and help her around the garden and help her sell her vegetables and fruits on market day to the humans. And way up the hill, deep in the forest, there's this old castle which has been vacant, abandoned for a century. But all of a sudden, there's smoke rising out of the chimneys. And now everybody panics because they think a vampire has moved into the castle. And obviously they're scared of the vampire because what if he's got lots of minions and is out for world domination? So they send Garlic to the vampire because of course they would send Garlic to the vampire, right? But the thing is, Garlic is a very anxious little thing. She still goes up there, meets the vampire, and turns out he's actually really chill. And this whole graphic novel was so incredibly wholesome. I loved it so much. I loved the art style. The plot was so heartwarming and so wholesome and cute, and it was just so lovely. I loved it so much. I read it after finishing Two Twisted Crowns because I just needed something easy to read, you know, and I really enjoyed it. It was a great reading experience. It was so cute, honestly. I think I'm going to read Garlic and the Witch by Bree Paulsen as well once I can get a hold of it at my library. But I really enjoyed this graphic novel, and I think I'm going to give it 5 stars actually, just because it was so lovely. And now that is it for this reading wrap up. Maybe let me know down in the comments which books you have read in November and December so we can talk about them. And if you don't want to tell me that, you can tell me anything else. I am all ears. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe. And other than that, I will see you guys somewhere else on the internet or in my next video. Bye!